Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit Azabi here, back again with Kuroko and Aomine Season 2, and we were on episode 16 last time. We were well into the match, the second match between Sirine and Toho, and it's really picking up speed now, with the addition of Kuroko's sort of new inspired move of... It's seemingly something that he obviously thought of when he had his time out, where he was essentially thinking, alright, my misdirection is starting to wear off now. But by essentially taking that to, if you want to put it in percentages, to like 0% and applying it to every other one of his teammates is just one of the biggest shocks of the show. And I just really enjoyed it last episode. It's, like, especially when it was, initially there, when, Izuki managing to like pull that off. Just something that I really did not expect at all, but it was really, really cool to watch, because it wasn't done in like the same way as like Kuroko's is done. And Kuroko's is like sly, like you'll be putting like the the point of view of an opponent trying to watch Kuroko, and then all of a sudden he's gone. But with Izuki, they basically held on a frame and just vanished him. Like basically just didn't draw him for the next frame. Or the next few frames, which was nuts. But it was just really cool. So yeah, Misdirection Overflow is what the name of that is. And yeah, it definitely turned the table a bit in Sirine's favour. But that was at the end of the third quarter, so we came back into the fourth, and Aomine is back to his former self. Now, seeing as that's where we ended last episode, we need to take a detour into a side episode, so episode 16.5, or if you're talking about the show as a whole, it'll be episode 41.5. But yeah, so it's going to be another one of going back to Teiko, I'd imagine, and seeing what getting into Aomine a bit more before he he basically transformed into the character that he became, and see what he was like before. We've gotten like little tidbits here and there, but it'll be nice to see, to kind of delve into it a bit more. And I enjoyed the first sort of side episode that they did at the end of season 1 with Kisei. So yeah, it should be cool to get into Aomine and see what was up with him at Teiko. So yeah, I don't think we need to talk about anything else, so I think we're just going to get into the episode. So yes, if you do want to go watch the reaction, the link is in the description below. There's also the link to the full length there if you want to watch my reaction to the episode in full and not just the cut 10-minute version, and the offer is there for you. But yes, nothing else to really talk about, so we're going to get into Season 2, Episode 16.5, and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Okay. Really, really nice episode. I'm glad that we got that, because I feel like even though sort of on the surface we understood everything of the reasons why Aomine became what he became, but I think the thing that was sort of maybe lacking a bit was that like sort of relationship that Kuroko and Aomine actually had, because obviously there was, because we only saw really that one scene, which was brought up again in this episode, so we obviously got an idea of like the timeline and everything that had happened. We only really got that as like a sort of almost like a teaser in a way of like, well, this is what they were like before, and I kind of always thought that it would be nice to go back and actually see like them become that, like sort of like have that friendship and actually see like how it came about and how it started and everything like that, just so it means more when we go back to current time. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that, and it really like just puts into perspective like Aomine's change is very drastic. Like a lot of the things that he was pointing out ended up becoming like something the complete opposite, you know what I mean? I mean the like things like admiring the fact that he admires people that practice basketball like more and like do it more than other people, and then he became the guy who never practiced, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. But it's a great it's a great character thing, because I don't think I've ever seen a character that has gone that route, and I guess it works well for sort of basketball in terms of like talent and not wanting to, you know what I mean, because it's, you know, sport is strictly competition, so you know what I mean, that the fun comes out of it when you're having to go all out against an opponent. So you know what I mean, it doesn't really work, I guess, for like battle shonens or stuff like that. You know what I mean, it just becomes a, well, I mean, I say that, but then, you know, there are protagonists out there that just like the, you know, the challenge of a fight. But I mean, I guess it works more like naturally with a sports sort of anime. And yeah, I mean, that isn't something that I've encountered in Haikyuu, so you know, it's just a really cool character concept of someone that is just so good that, you know, no one can really stand up to him in a one-on-one situation. So in order to get that, you know what I mean, because it's because the thing is that the love of basketball never sort of, it never stopped. I feel like it never wavered. I know that he obviously on the court when Inoue's team gave up, it was like that was the last straw, because that was the one team that Aomine was like, you know, there's at least some competition going on here. So when they gave up, like that was the last straw. But and obviously Aomine was talking about, well, what's fun about basketball anymore. But the idea like of what's fun about basketball versus the love of basketball, I think are two separate things. And the thing is that even though Aomine from that point up until now, in current time, I still think the love of basketball is there, and that's the reason why he was like, that's the reason why he doesn't practice for. He doesn't want to get better because he wants somebody to reach his level, or he wants somebody to challenge him for that, so that he can get that fun back. Because if not, then he would have just quit basketball. You know what I mean? Like, if it was just a case of like, well, what's fun about basketball anymore? I'm just going to stop playing. Like, that is something completely different. He still plays games, you know. So you know, there's that. But yeah, I just feel like this episode was well sort of needed, and I'm happy that like this show does those little things of like, you know, I feel like unless there's going to be a lot in season 3, we're not really going to get ones for you know, the others. We may get like maybe one more, like Akashi maybe, you know, maybe the characters that are a bit more sort of, I guess, deep, because I think in terms of like the other, like, you know, the other ones like Midorima, I think is relatively straightforward, and so is Murasaki Bara as well. You know, I think you get a lot of on their surface, like why, like that's kind of just the way that they are. It's very simple. There's not too much to delve into in terms of like their story or the way that they are, because I think that it was just sort of natural for them. Whereas, you know, someone like Kisei, who was great at everything that he did, and he was a fast learner and everything like that, how did he come into basketball? You know what I mean? And then you've got Aomine, who has the stark change in the way that he, you know, that, like, from what he was to what he became. And I feel like the only other sort of person in the generation of miracles that would that we could benefit, I suppose, from an episode like this would be Akashi. The thing is that with Akashi is very, what's the word? It's not manipulating, even though that's the one it's right in my head right now. He's calculating. That's the word I'm looking for. So I feel like everything that he's doing, I mean, I don't think it's any coincidence that, you know, he has these shogi pieces and everything like that. It's like similar to when you have anime that deals with like chess or anything like that, like Code Geass and everything. It's like used as sort of like a metaphor for, you know, for challenging like another opponent, or like playing the game, so to speak. And I feel like it's almost like Akashi he assembled this team of the Generation of Miracles to, it's almost like he wanted this to happen. And I think whatever that scene was when, like, before the actual like Winter Cup knockout stages started, when he got everyone together and said that, I hope you'll keep your promises and everything like the promise and everything like that, I feel like it was almost, it's like Akashi had this in mind the whole time. For coming into high school, he wanted everyone to go out their separate ways, all come together to fight, like, sort of, to see who comes out on top. And it's interesting in a way. It's like, in that regard, then it's kind of not too dissimilar from the way that, like Aomine feels in terms of wanting a rival, someone who can actually challenge him. But so I feel like there may be a case where Akashi's looking for that as well, because with him, we've only got a little bit of sort of exposition regarding him from what I assume was his teammates, when he's talking about, like, he just wins, like, it's like as natural as breathing kind of thing. It's just like, that's what he does, he wins. And he's got some decent dribbling skill. We saw that as well, which I think that was the first time we really actually saw him involved in a basketball match. Like that one little clip where it was like maybe like 3 to 5 seconds. I think that's the one time we've actually seen him actually do something like actually handle the ball in a basketball match. Because I think before we saw him like on the court in the middle of a match, but he was kind of just dictating things with his eyes. You know what I mean? So because he's a point guard, isn't he? So it's like he sort of dictates the play of where to go and everything like that, and being the captain. So it's an interesting one with Akashi, like kind of wanting this to happen in a way. It's like he's setting up his own. It was like he was setting up his own like sort of internal tournament from the beginning, involving all of these different characters in a way. You know what I mean? And it's like, so like in a way, I don't know if it's a case of, I don't know if it's like benevolence or malevolence. I don't know if it's like, if he's doing it for good reasons or bad reasons. You know what I mean? Because the way that he is, like, because I can't get out that fucking image in my head of when he literally got the scissors and he actually slashed Kagami. Like he's almost like a psychopath. You know what I mean? Like he's that kind of. It feels like he's that kind of fucking character where he's like on the edge. Like, you know what I mean? If it wasn't just like this sort of innocent, basketball anime, you could just see him becoming a fucking murderer. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that one. I'm sure that'll be coming in, season 3, things like that. But yeah, so it was just nice to see Aomine back to, like the way that he was, back then, like always smiling, very positive about anything involving basketball, like saying that there's no bad guys who play basketball, Also, the sort of the similarities to Kagami as well. Like I noticed that obviously there was a few little things that had, transpired in the episode that really related back to when, like back in season 1 when Kagami and Kuroko were still just getting to know each other. You know what I mean? Like all of that it just sort of ran true, that the similarities between the two, and that's obviously been talked about before by even the characters. Like even, I guess it's a different way of looking at it, but Midorima pointed out that he's the one that's the most similar playstyle to you. I guess that's one on the court, but it makes sense off the court kind of thing as well. Like being that guy, it is interesting, isn't it, that guy who has that specific playstyle on the court kind of is determined almost by like their personality and the way that they like their relationships off the court as well. Especially involving Kuroko, because Kuroko's whole ability revolves around that, that light and shadow, like kind of partnership. So, it completely makes sense. But yeah, those similarities were, you could definitely see them. What else? Basically that quote as well, where he was basically saying that you're more amazing than me, is something that I never even expected. Even like in Aomine's, like when he was the way that he was, I didn't even expect him to even come out with that, because that's like one of those things where it's just like where Aomine is observing something as well, just because I guess he practices more, but he never gets anything like more out of it past Aomine. Aomine doesn't have to practice as much as as Kuroko, and he's a much better player. So yeah, that one kind of caught me off guard, but it showcases that drastic change that Aomine had. But yeah, so there was a whole, obviously, especially the first half of the episode, it kind of talked about how Kuroko came to Teiko. He was in the third string of the basketball team, and he was unable to get promoted even to the second string. And in the middle of the action, I was talking about how he didn't even get promoted to the second string, and because of that, I was wondering if even he had his passing abilities at that point. But it turned out that he did, because it was lucky that like Akashi and whatnot came in at that time, because Akashi was like, well, I'm the captain, I'm fucking moving him up, because he has some ability that even Akashi immediately saw that potential in Kuroko. Like the fact that I guess even Akashi was taken aback by his lack of presence, that it was like, well, that's something we can use on the court. So yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, so I mean, the fact that he couldn't get up with the second string, yeah, I was wondering if he didn't have his passing abilities, but it turns out he did. And I did mention it during the reaction, but I think there was a whole scene like back. I couldn't even tell you which episode it was, but there was something about talks about how the way that Kuroko plays is based around his team. Like his teammates, and their ability as well. Like the better the team around Kuroko, the better, the more he's able to sort of use his own abilities, and his passing is kind of goes up a level. I think when you don't have as good teammates around you, the whole passing thing and everything like that, like you're expecting your teammates to be able to instinctually sort of understand where these passes are coming from, and getting into the right positions. So I don't even think the third string would have, I guess, had that ability to be able to play with Kuroko, so therefore Kuroko's abilities were not showcased enough to put him even into the second string. So it was nice to see that Akashi come through and everything like that. But yeah, it's getting really fucking bright in here, isn't it? There's the fucking sun. Always comes out when I'm recording, without fail. So yeah, they had that subbing Kuroko for Kisei as well, which I think I mentioned a bit during the reaction, but yeah, it would seem that would be the case, especially for the first string team, that the general subbing in and out they would be Kuroko for Kisei, because Kisei is obviously the newer guy coming in, and even like at the very start of the show, he was talking about how he's the weakest of the lot anyway, but that's quickly kind of changing, you know what I mean, especially with the end of season 1, but yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And also kind of in a way, like sort of, oh god, it's so bright, man. In a way, that kind of that little sort of detail of them two subbing each other out would be kind of like the reason why I think Kisei looks at Kuroko like a really good friend almost, because I feel like they would sort of slightly bond over that whole thing, that they're the two that sub out for each other. So I thought that was just like a little minute detail I think that works. Right, that's it. I'm gonna have to, because that is doing my head in. So annoying, man. God. Let's get that fucking shut as well. I'll change this. That'll do. There we go. So ridiculous, man. Don't know why the heavens always open when I record. So yeah, there's that, and then what else? They grew so quickly, man. Because I'm pretty sure, from if you're talking about a general winter to summer, you're talking about half a year, right? And the how much they grew in that short space of time. I mean, in a way, it can like relate true to like real life. Like you generally, your mass amounts of growth come at that time in your life. So I guess it's not too, but it's just like the sort of the sheer difference between the two. You'd think that a couple of years would have gone by, but yeah. Yeah, and then at the very end there we had Toho show up. So it wasn't only just the coach, but also Imayoshi as well. And I can't remember what year Imayoshi is. Is he a second year? I think it'd be a second year, possibly a third, possibly. But yeah, so it was almost like I come in to sort of almost draft the Generation of Miracles and get them recruited before anybody else did. And I think Imayoshi really played like that smart recruitment strategy of almost like setting it out like he's going to recruit him, but then basically like shooting him down, kind of using his I guess his pride as a basketball player, you know what I mean, like shooting him down, basically saying like, if you want to be, if you want to play like you're actually the best person on the court, then we'll allow you to play with us, kind of thing. I think it's just like that sort of dynamic, that tactical play that he was talking about, you know what I mean. So it basically forces Aomine's hand to come to Toho, you know what I mean? Because I think that was always like a little question as well, so I'm glad that was answered, like this whole idea of like, why did Aomine go to Toho? And originally I thought it was when we were first sort of introduced to them, you know what I mean, we hadn't even seen the whole team yet. I think we only knew that Aomine was a part of it, and I think Rico was talking about like how they're a team that didn't really do well for a long period of time until they started getting these individual brilliant players. And then at that point I just remember being like, did he do that because he wanted to be in a not so great team? I mean, we didn't know at that point that the other players were really good as well, but yeah, it's nice to just get that little bit there at the end of the episode. And yeah, I think that's what was said, even though we didn't actually hear the dialogue. I think that's what Aomine was telling Kuroko by the pool. I think he just said like, I'm going to Toho, so we'll be on different teams now. You know what I mean? And just seeing that sort of look of almost like, it was kind of like, I don't know, it wouldn't be like shock for Kuroko, I don't think, but it swiftly turned into sort of determination almost. You know what I mean? To like. Which is interesting, because at one point Kuroko was thinking of just quitting because he could never get to Aomine's level, but Aomine just kept him in it. So it's that thing with Kuroko where he always thinks about other people's feelings, that I feel like Kuroko kept that within him, that Aomine like sort of pushed him to stay, because he had that sort of that belief in him. You know what I mean? He basically almost put him up on a pedestal because he was like, you're more amazing than me. You know what I mean? Do so much practice and everything like that, that it's something that Kuroko never lost. Like that whole time when he was learning, what was it, the Vanishing Drive, and he went through like, he wore out 6 basketballs. You know what I mean? It's like he just does this he over practices like all the time. And it's something that was never lost, and I just feel like a lot of that is down to trying to not impress, but get to a point where he can like have his own thing against Aomine, and in a way, even in the last episode, the previous episode 41, or episode 16 of season 2, sorry, that he got to that point where he can use different strategies against him, even though Aomine does figure them out. It's like you gotta have that sort of belief that you can even push and progress closer to Aomine's skill level. I mean, in a one-on-one situation, Kuroko will never be that, but about the team, able to help out the team with his ability of, especially the overdrive, or the over, what is it, overflow, sorry. Yeah, he was able to get that. So yeah, really, really cool episode. I think it was definitely needed. So yeah, I'm glad that we actually got that, especially going into the next episode and finishing off the rest of this match to see how it goes, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting as well, like the next episode, seeing how, because they did come out and say that Aomine is back to his usual self, and I don't know how much that is actually true. Like, if we're going to see like his older personality come out a bit more, and he's going to be a bit more sort of give off a more positive sort of vibe, like competition, as you know what I mean. I don't know. You know, but I want to see, like, every time he's on the ball, him smile. You know what I mean? But we'll see. So yeah, I think that's all I've got for this episode. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Episode 17. Yeah, that's right. Episode 17 will be out at the same time as this for everybody. So if you want to get access to episode 18 and 19 immediately, you can do by going over to my Patreon and getting the early access tier. That'll give you access to episodes a week early. There's also the full-length tier if you want to watch any of my reactions in full and not just the 10-minute cut version. And then there is the exclusive tier as well. So if you want to watch my reactions to movies or anything like that, then you know, feel free, go over there, see what they offer. But that's all I got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.